We go. All right. Welcome, everybody. I am Chaya Lerner, and I am honored and privileged to welcome my good friend, Rabbi Cheryl Weiner, who is a hospice chaplain and extremely knowledgeable about this topic of cognitive disorders and Alzheimer's. And take it away, Rabbi Cheryl.
Okay. I was trying to put some materials, the um um PowerPoint in the chat, but I'm not sure it wasn't uh doing its thing. So if you would like a copy of my materials, I'll send them to Kaya and she can forward them on to you, okay? This way you get to listen and rather than reading ahead. But I wanted to just open our conversation today with a prayer for Israel. And I printed it out, but for some reason it didn't print correctly. So let me just go retrieve it online. And it okay. Sorry. And it is listed under nashuva.com. It's a prayer by Rabbi Naomi Levy, who creates many spiritually oriented modern prayers on all different topics. Excuse me. God, our strength and protection, we pray for the state of Israel in this devastating time of war, shock, and grief. Our hearts are breaking, God. We pray for the lives of the innocent civilians who have been heartlessly kidnapped by Hamas. Bring them home, watch over them. We pray for the lives of the soldiers who have been taken captive. We pray for their safe return, shelter them. We pray for the souls of the innocent victims who were brutally slaughtered. Send comfort and strength to the grieving. Send healing to the injured and strength and wisdom to their doctors and nurses. We pray for all our brothers and sisters in Israel in this time of tragedy and crisis. Watch over Israel, God. Spread your shelter of peace over the land and over all our brothers and sisters who live there. Shine your light upon Israel's leaders, officers, and advisors. Help them to overcome all divisiveness and to act with clarity and determination. Protect the men and women who defend Israel. Let them be safe and may they be victorious over the Hamas terrorists and now Iran, who have attacked our people, and an ongoing missiles from Hezbollah. Watch over our leaders, God. Hear their prayers, bring peace. Let it rain down from the heavens like a mighty storm. Let it wash away all hatred and bloodshed. Peace, God, please. God, peace. God at the brokenhearted of the brokenhearted, God of the living, God of the dead, gather the souls of the victims into your eternal shelter. Let them find peace in your presence. Their lives have ended, but their lights can never be extinguished. May they shine on us always and illuminate our way. So thank you for letting me share that with you. So let me ask a question of each of you. I'm assuming that you are all clergy who are in chat roles of rabbinic pastor or chaplain. Is there anyone who's not doing that? Okay, so then oh, you are not. Okay.
I'm a hospice chaplain, but I'm not working. I'm only doing spiritual direction now. I'm
Okay.
semi-retired, so I'm not working chaplaincy at this point.
Right.
But I ordained by Aleph as the rabbinic pastor. So
And I'm ordained also by Aleph as a rabbinic pastor, but I'm functioning as a psychotherapist.
Okay. And are any of you dealing specifically at this point with someone who has dementia?
I
Okay.
think I'm on the path.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Well,
No,
you know me. You know, I mean,
Forgetfulness, etc.
So I'm going to open my uh program to share. And I thought that I would offer this as an opening to give us the sense of what it means to have someone in our families, in our world, who has dementia, and what it means to us as people who are serving in our communities. So Cantor Rabbi Marcello Ginlin is the clergy person at Malibu Jewish Center and Synagogue. He's a colleague of mine and a friend. And
my door closed.
pardon me? Okay. And his
Can
mother.
you ask everybody to mute, please?
Okay, would everybody please mute so we don't have any interference? Thank you. So he recently lost his mom, and she was 92 and she had end-stage dementia, and this is what he wrote. And it's a tribute to her, but it's also a discussion of what it means to lose someone, to have someone in one space who is experiencing or experienced dementia. And I will skip through some of it. Losing a parent is one of the hardest things we experience in life. And I'm trying to move. Okay. And I'm going to skip down. He's talking about the fact that he is Latino and it will start here. And that he experienced his first eulogies in English a number of years ago, and that it was hard for him. And then he acknowledges that writing a eulogy for his mom was really, really hard. My mom was born on May 16th, 1932. The daughter of immigrants, she was born in a time when women were denied so many privileges. So yes, she lived a conventional life, got married, had kids, and fulfilled her duty as a housewife. But she was also magnificent, strong, resilient, and very independent, which for sure inspired her kids to strive as well. More importantly, my mama was the epitome of unconditional love, extraordinarily nurturing, protective, accepting, loving, and kind. My mama had taught me about faith and spirituality. She gave me roots, but she also gave me wings to fly, physically, creatively, emotionally. She embraced me when I came out Marcelo is gay. She would always ask me about if I had met someone. One day she went further and asked if I had met any guy. I was shocked. I had never even started to consider sharing with her that I was gay. But of course, that didn't matter to her. What mattered to her was simply me, her son. From the very first day until the last, even if her consciousness was no longer there, even if she wasn't herself anymore, her love was always unwavering, and it always will be. I always wanted for her to come live with us in the States, but as I said, she was very independent, and he also added stubborn. She walked to the market for her groceries, took the metro, participated in different senior groups and other activities. She would also take care of my sister, Liliana, which was very important for her in Argentina. My mama was very active, but in 2018, her memory started flickering, and we noticed that. Sadly, so did she. Her weekly calls, excuse me, every Friday night to wish me Shabbat Shalom and every Saturday to wish me Shavua Tov became irregular. She would forget things, and I could tell she wanted to keep conversations short, not to show it. In December of that year, when I went to visit her in Argentina, it was clear to me that she was in the first stages of her dementia. In March 2020, the pandemic started, and taking care of her in the distance proved to be an extremely challenging task. My mama had a caregiver by then and was no longer taking care of my sister, who started to be taken care of by her own daughter. But regardless, my mom's living situation continued to deteriorate. Furthermore, her house was vandalized one time when she went to the bank to get her pension. So by by then we knew it wouldn't get any better. And Mariana, excuse me, who is Marcelo's sister, and I decided to bring her here with us. Mariana is also a cantor and rabbi. And then there we were, entering the stage where you have to look after the ones who have looked after you your whole life. Funny how that works. I have had very challenging situations in my life. Bringing my mom here was for sure one of them. It was like a whole operation, saving my mom's life because it was nothing short of that. And remember, this was in the middle of the pandemic and her dementia. So just like out of a movie, I started arranging all details to get her out of Argentina. I contacted people to help her get dressed, pack, make sure all paperwork was in order, take her to the airport, and see that she would leave as planned, not to mention taking care of her place in Buenos Aires and so many other things. Just trying to find a flight was a huge challenge back then. Thankfully, we found one, the only available charter flight in July of 2020. It was from Buenos Aires to Miami. So I flew to Miami in the middle of the pandemic. Miami. Nobody cared for the masks there, but there was no other choice. I waited and waited only to find out that her flight had been canceled and that she had been rescheduled to arrive the following day. I extended my stay to wait for her, and she finally arrived in the States. We went straight to the hotel and flew back to LA the following morning. And guess what? We both got COVID back when there was no vaccine, and to be honest, very little information at all. And so I prayed and prayed, and we both got through it. My mom was strong, and I'd like to think I'd take that after her. But that was only the beginning. We were stepping into a whole new world, and I couldn't do it alone. So I started looking for caregivers, not an easy task at all. We went through so many. I feel like I've got a PhD in caregiving now. At first it was easier, but my mom was slowly losing her mobility, still able to walk with some help. After Rafa, his son, was born and we came to the house, she was there to greet us. I'm not sure she could fully understand the whole situation, but she for sure loved her grandson. You can say that for a while they shared the same state of consciousness, Rafa moving up as she deteriorated, yet beautifully crossing each other in the middle. But having a newborn and someone who needed care 24/7 is not easy. So mom went to live with Mariana, his sister, for a year. Her dementia was progressing, and with that came some signs of aggression. It's hard for a caregiver to understand that if a patient is swearing or saying inappropriate things, it's not them doing the talking, but their illness. During the year, we flew to visit her 5 times, a total of 10 airplanes with an infant. Eventually, she moved back to Malibu with us. By then, she wasn't able to walk as much and she could no longer go upstairs to take a shower. That's when we had to move to a beautiful condo with a beautiful view, which sadly she could never truly enjoy or even see because of her macular degeneration. But at least she was more comfortable surrounded by me, her caregivers, and now a much more active Rafa. She would caress his curls and enjoy his kisses in silence. The last year of her life, she became very loving. I would tell her, I love you every day, and every day she would reply, I love you too. Eventually, my mom started losing her appetite, her balance, her ability to walk and to swallow. I sang so much for her in her final days. My Yiddish songs were her favorite. Every day in the last week, I would ask her, what would you like me to sing? And she would reply, a Yiddish mama. And the song with which first paragraph I opened her eulogy today. Eventually, she stopped replying, but I kept singing it for her. On Tuesday, I sang for Mamala for many hours with my voice cracking and my eyes watering, her own eyes closed, and her voice, the one that used to call me for supper and scold me when I was a child, the one I've heard over the phone every Friday since I moved to the States up until 2018. The voice that told me, Te quiero, I love you, so many times, already gone. On Tuesday, finally, her body gave up. She waited until Mariana arrived in LA, and so with the two of us by her side, she entered the Olam Haba, the next world, where we cannot follow. And now a new and unknown era begins. As for me, well, it's different. It's awkward when the leader who helps you, guides you, and uplifts you is himself in mourning. But if you are concerned, please know that I will be okay. I know I did everything I could for her and more, and now life continues. Will I be there for your simchas? Of course, that's what life is for, to enjoy every moment and make it special. Life is too precious and fleeting to be taken for granted. And will I be there for you in hard times? Of course. So within the eulogy, he has encapsulated many of the issues of dealing with someone who has dementia. There is that slow decline where somebody is transitioning from being present to not being there, from going from being mobile to being immobile. expressing certain emotions representing negativity and aggression, which is often taken care of by medication. The need for aids, the need for some support from either an assisted living facility or a skilled nursing facility. A recognition that the person who was there is no longer there, but that there is still love to be expressed both from them and to them. There's also the intergenerational connection that occurs with someone who has dementia and is being cared for by family. And the challenge that comes along with there's the challenge that comes along with not being able to live where one has lived because the facility doesn't work, the home doesn't work. There's a shower that is upstairs, and the person who we live with or who lives with us can't make it anymore. And there is the recognition and the acknowledgement that music is a very strong part of dementia care, that many people with dementia cannot remember anything, can barely speak, and yet if you sing to them or with them, they often remember the words, they often can sing with you and know all the lyrics. And that's when we are working with dementia patients, we have to know and acknowledge that their age and what the music was that they might know and recognize. And many people, while they may not know Yiddish songs, will know Frank Sinatra or Barbra Streisand or Nat King Cole. And many just appreciate various types of music. But often when language disappears, music remains. So I wanted to give you that as an orientation for our entering into the topics for today. And I welcome those of you who have joined us a little bit late. Um, I'm going to share my screen. My name is Cheryl Weiner, and I am a rabbi and chaplain in Miami. And I work as a hospice chaplain as well as a bereavement specialist. And I train volunteers in Bikor Cholim and end of life care. And much of what we sometimes call my ministry or my calling has been to work with those who have dementia or their families, and their families as well. This is an informal presentation in that if you have questions, concerns, or want to comment, I encourage you to unmute yourself and just join in. I won't be able to see you if you raise your hand, I don't think. I may be able to, but I will welcome you, your comments and questions. Oops, I have to open the PowerPoint. And I will start to share. Before I get started, does anybody have anything they want to add or share at this point? Okay. So, um, the issues that we will be talking about were outlined in the flyer. For some reason I'm going way ahead. Okay. Embrace it. We are told that we are created in the image of God, but what does this mean when we work with people who have various forms of dementia? What does it mean to lose cognitive functions as we age? What are the different types of dementia, Parkinson's, Lewy bodies, brain injury, and Alzheimer's? What are some current theories, treatments, models that can offer meaningful spiritual counseling and presence to patients and families, caregivers, and communities which are facing challenges due to cognitive losses? How do we cope with our own losses and those of loved ones? How do we work with patients and clients who we serve in various capacities as spiritual guides? What role can we play? What tools do we need to be helpful and hopeful? And we can begin with a prayer as we open spiritual reflection on our topic. And it's the Shehechianu. So I ask you to join with me, either muted or not. Baruch atah Adonai asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav shehechianu v'kiyamanu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, source of creation, who has sanctified us here with obligations and responsibilities as spiritual leaders, and has gathered us together for this moment of learning and sharing. I want to thank Rabbinic Pastor Chaya Lerner for the invitation to be with you today. And I want to thank each of you for showing up and being present. So what is dementia? Dementia is a catch-all term for changes in the brain that cause a loss of functioning that interferes with daily life. It can diminish focus, attention, language skills, problem solving, and visual perception. It can also make it difficult for a person to control his or her emotions, can even lead to personality changes. In an end-stage dementia, people often lose their mobility, their ability to speak, their ability to eat, and different types of dementia lead to different types of challenges as someone moves into through that particular spiritual journey. The theological issues that are related to dementia are not explicitly stated within the tradition. However, there are concepts or constructs that we work with when we work with dementia in a Jewish environment. We understand that our tradition has a concept of respecting our elders, and we are therefore obligated to treat those with dementia with dignity and compassion, as it says that we are to honor our parents, but it doesn't say that we need to love our parents necessarily, but that we need to honor them. And so when we're working with elders, whether as a loved one or as a client or constituent, We need to honor them with dignity and compassion. And in certain instances, that can be hard. We can't easily always establish a relationship that is meaningful, but we need to honor the relationship that we are engaged in with dignity and compassion. A major concept within Judaism is pikuach nefesh, which prioritizes the preservation of life. It is the foundation of our Jewish ethics. And when people have dementia, the decision regarding their medical treatment and their well-being are part of this concept, this principle, ensuring that their safety and quality of life is respected and that we do not hasten their death in any way. And even though their families may want a speedy demise, this is not part of our tradition. The whole notion of euthanasia is not part of what we believe. And the question of medical care in dying is one that is coming to the fore with people who know that they have advanced stages or will have advanced stages of dementia, whether it be as part of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and it is a controversial topic within our communities, particularly when people are cognizant of what it just sets in. It is their caregivers, their people who have the power of attorney for health care, their surrogates who have to work with the concepts of how to deal with end-of-life issues. Bikur Cholim is our underlying way of dealing with those who have dementia. I work with a training, I'm the director of a training program for volunteers, and a number of our volunteers do go visit with people who have dementia and also those who are on hospice care with dementia. And we offer them a particular kind of training so that they understand how to work with people, and again, how to provide dignity and compassion. Our concept of tzedakah is restorative justice, and it is a foundational aspect of making sure that the financial resources that a person has is supplemented if they need support during dementia care. This is particularly problematic at this point in our society and in this period of history where so many people are living beyond our traditional concepts of age. I'm not sure why I have a frog in my throat, but I apologize. I'm perfectly healthy and happy, but I'm sorry if I keep clearing my throat. The halachic considerations are not particularly apparent. Jewish law emphasizes the preserving of human dignity and providing for people who are vulnerable. And rabbinic authorities do offer guidance on ethical dilemmas, particularly end of life and decision making. But there is nothing specific in our halachic portfolio that deals with dementia per se. Within the framework of being made in the image of God, we have to consider that someone who has dementia is also made in the image of God. So God created the human in his own image, God's own image, in the image of God. God created him, male and female, he created them. And so the notion of imitato Deo, the imitation of God, being created in the image of God, has multiple meanings and dimensions. One of my favorite Talmudic parables, which illustrates how, as Jews, we behave in relation to those with dementia or cognitive disabilities, is presented here. Rabbi Chia bar Abba fell ill. Rabbi Yochanan came to visit him and said to him, "Is your suffering dear to you? Do you desire to be ill and afflicted?" Rabbi Chia said to him, "I welcome neither this suffering nor its reward, as one who welcomes this suffering with love is rewarded." The concept here is that if you suffer on this earth, you are rewarded with entry into the Olam Haba with peace and prosperity. So the people are saying, no, I'm not attached to the suffering or its reward. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, "Give me your hand." And Rabbi Chia bar Abba did so. Rabbi Yochanan stood him up and restored him to health. Similarly, Rabbi Yochanan fell ill. Rabbi Hanina came to visit him and said, "Is your suffering dear to you?" Rabbi Yochanan answered, "I welcome neither this suffering nor its reward." Rabbi Hanina then said to him, "Give me your hand." And Rabbi Yochanan did so. And Rabbi Hanina stood him up and restored him to health. Why did Rabbi Yochanan wait for Rabbi Hanina to restore him to health? Since he was able to heal his student, Rabbi Chia, why did he not stand himself up? And the answer is, Chazal, our rabbis say, prisoners cannot free themselves from prison. And we interpolate from that those with dementia cannot free themselves from dementia on their own. They need a helping hand from their families, from aides, from us as spiritual counselors, as spiritual directors, to help them and their families so that they are not behind walls, not behind bars, but are rather able to be free of concern and want. The statistics are staggering. I give you a few. According to 2023 figures from the Alzheimer's Association, an estimated 6.7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, accounting for 60 to 80% of dementia cases, though many experts say that number is probably higher and it's going to increase over the next 10 years. Globally, dementia is the 7th leading cause of death, according to the World Health Organization estimates. And I just want to comment, I did not include the statistic, but there are billions of dollars that are lost every year to families where caregivers are taking care of loved ones who have dementia, whether it's parents or a child or a spouse. People are no longer able to work or work full time, and that money is not accounted for in any societal way. It is a huge economic issue. And there, for example, we don't have any tax relief for being a caregiver. And we have very limited financial support, even from the Jewish community, to help people with 24/7 aids and with the admission into assisted living facilities or skilled nursing homes, which are exceedingly expensive, as many of you may know. It is extremely important to diagnose what happens when there is a cognitive decline, when memory begins to fail. And the reason for that is because there may be treatable conditions that are causing a cognitive failure, like a vitamin deficiency. And it's important to pursue treatment if this is available to you, rather than suffering from the dementia symptoms. So alcohol abuse, anxiety, depression, or stress, blood clots, brain infections or tumors, various types of delirium, if one has experienced a head injury or a brain aneurysm, if one has kidney, liver, or thyroid problems. Often those can be alleviated and then the dementia diminishes or disappears. Also, there are many side effects of medication that cause cognitive deficiencies, along with vitamin deficiencies, with cause cognitive disabilities. So the diagnosis is extremely important to make sure that it is not an Alzheimer's or other non-treatable dementia. The tools that are used by medical professionals are cognitive and neuropsychological tests, blood tests, brain scans, psychiatric evaluation, and genetic tests. Often, various types of Alzheimer's can be predicted as a genetic family predisposition. And there are ways of not curing Alzheimer's, but preventing the time acceleration for how it presents itself or manifests. According to the Alzheimer's Association, as many as 20% of people with Alzheimer's experience something called sundown syndrome. And when a loved one has dementia, the approach of sundown can trigger sudden emotional, behavioral, or cognitive changes. And this can be extremely distressing. So like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, people can experience mood swings, increased anxiety, overly sad or depressed, becoming very restless and agitated. They may become very hyperactive with an energy surge. Their cognitive abilities may include even more confusion. They may experience hallucinations and delusions, especially with certain illnesses like Parkinson's. Alzheimer's is a specific disease that accounts for 60 to 80% of dementia cases. And it also includes a major physical decline as well as a cognitive decline. Dementia, on the other hand, is a general or generic term for symptoms like loss of memory, reasoning, thinking skills, and other aspects of disability, but are not necessarily part of an Alzheimer's diagnosis. What are some of the signs of dementia? Well, we have declines in memory, certain perception and reasoning abilities that diminish. Our concentration and attention is also impacted. Our thinking and judgment is not so good. And we often experience various types of language deficits. Signs of dementia. If someone is experiencing or witnessing the experience of these signs, it's important to go and get a diagnosis. So people can have difficulty with everyday tasks. Everyone makes mistakes, but people with dementia find it difficult to keep track of bills, follow a recipe. They find it harder to concentrate, and it may take them longer to do something. So getting dressed in the morning, they may be confusing. They don't know which blouse goes with which pair of pants. They don't know how to button a shirt. They don't know how to tie their shoes. They can no longer really cook or make meals for themselves, even like pouring cereal into a bowl and eating it. And they may need reminders to take their pills, to do an exercise routine, to listen to the news that they enjoy. But they have difficulty at the beginning stages remembering. And they repeat things. So frequently, someone who is now experiencing dementia or cognitive disability will repeat questions over and over, tell you the same story over and over, ask you to repeat yourself. Now, this is different than someone. I have a very dear friend who's 88. I adore her, and she's totally with it cognitively, but she winds up telling the same stories over and over again, which can be a little disconcerting. But if you say to her, gee, I heard this already, she can recognize and stop her narrative. Communication problems often become difficult. People may stop in the middle of a sentence, they can't remember a word, they can't remember an event, but it's different from what we call senior moments. Okay, I often can't pull out the name of somebody or can't remember the details of an event that I've experienced. And it's common to see people in couples who have lived together or experienced things together to say to the person, their companion, do you remember X? Do you remember the person who we used to play bridge with? I can't pull her name out. Do you remember the theater piece we saw last year? But that's different than the intensity of what happens when people start to have difficulty communicating. Often people lose interest in their environment. They become apathetic. When people used to like to play Scrabble or canasta and then suddenly they don't, that is a problem and can signal a cognitive decline. If people used to like to play bingo and they can no longer keep track of the numbers or put the numbers on their cards, that again is a sign that people are having a decline. People forget old memories, and they often get lost. So you hear many stories about somebody who walks out their front door, tries to go for a walk, and then doesn't know where they are or how to get home. Um, Often people who are caregiving people at home will pin their name and address on their clothing. So if by some accident they wind up drifting away, that people who find them know where they belong or where they should be directed to get home. Um, it is one of the major reasons that people are not supposed to drive anymore, because people will start driving somewhere and then they'll forget where they're going and not know how to get back. And at later stages, they will forget how to drive at all. Sometimes the personality will change. And as Marcelo expressed in his eulogy, his loving, dear mom became aggressive and started swearing at him. This is one of the most difficult issue for families and for people who are in facilities taking care of people with dementia. Because often the person with dementia is very big, physically very fit, and can be dangerous. We hear stories of wives who are become afraid of their husband, that their husband's going to hit them. And we hear stories in facilities where the nurses are afraid of an aggressive or patient who they fear is going to lash out with a violent exchange. And it's not that these people are aggressive by nature, but there is a behavioral change that can come along with the later stages of dementia. It can also often be controlled by medication, but one of the things that then happens is that the medication causes lethargy. And so the person loses their personality along with the aggression. People become confused about what time it is, where they're located. Sometimes I had a client, a patient who used to think that she was in her home in Brooklyn rather than at the skilled nursing facility that she was at. And she would also think of herself as a young girl going to a dance. And she would wonder why she wasn't wearing her dancing shoes. And so one has to work with that confusion in ways that do not agitate or create anxiety for the person. And I'll talk about that a bit later. Another worrisome sign is the disorientation about time. Some people will forget whether it's morning or afternoon. They won't remember when they're supposed to take their pills. They don't remember whether they brush their teeth or not in the morning. And this can be very disconcerting for people who are family caregivers. And people really need to control how people are given their medication and keeping track of the time for the person that they are caregiving for. Often people will misplace things, and this can be particularly challenging. People will misplace their hearing aids. People will misplace their phones. People will misplace the remote control for the TV. And sometimes people will claim that their caregivers, even at home or in a nursing home, are stealing from them. And again, this can be very disconcerting for people. And as I mentioned, there can be a lot of troubling behaviors, including poor judgment, handling money, not taking care of themselves in grooming, and not paying attention to their surroundings. In the latter stages of dementia, particularly with Alzheimer's, people will lose weight and have changes in their physical appearance. They'll have trouble eating or swallowing, they'll lose awareness of surroundings, and they're going to need 24-hour care at home or in a nursing home, and they may need 24/7 aids due to physical care or behavioral changes. So, what are the different types of dementia? We have the most prevalent is Alzheimer's, and that is caused by various plaque and fibers in the brain. And the damage is to the hippocampus and the hippocampus. And that's can be seen in MRIs often because you can see the plaque buildup on the brain. Vascular dementia is the second most common, and that is damage to the vessels, the blood vessels that go to the brain, and they focus, this focuses challenges with, this affects challenges with focus, organization, problem solving, the speed of thinking, and most notably memory. And often people with Alzheimer's also have vascular dementia. Lewy body's dementia is a particularly challenging type of dementia, which leads to problems with behavior, mood, being able to move, and ability to think. And it is accompanied by a lack of mobility and a lack of normal thinking skills. It also is similar in certain ways to Parkinson's disease, where it can be accompanied by hallucinations and delusions. There are some treatment methodologies, particularly in Israel, that help with Parkinson's, with hallucinations, and the body tremors. There are many different kinds of frontotemporal disorders, and it is the most common cause of dementia in people who are 65 or younger. And that can lead to apathy, problems with communication, walking, emotional changes, and inappropriate behaviors. Now, some of you may know young people who start to have what they call incipient dementia, where they start to manifest cognitive disabilities and physical challenges that prevent them from leading normal lives. So where can you find help? Well, the first level is going to a primary care physician. And that physician will recommend that a person see a neurologist, a geriatrician, or a geriatric psychiatrist. Going to see a regular psychiatrist may not be very productive, because if they do not have experience with these various types of cognitive disabilities, they may not be able to diagnose correctly. Some hospitals have clinics, and they have advanced dementia neurology departments. And wherever you go medically, you need to be able to present the medical history, habits, and those assist the ability to diagnose accurately. So it's really, really important to keep accurate records of the medical history and the experience of any kind of decline. What causes it? When does it happen? There are various treatments for dementia that are not advanced stages of Alzheimer's or Lewy bodies. There's medication. One can engage in mind stimulating activities which help to keep the mind active. Different types of therapy. Physical therapy can help with physical conditions caused by dementia, like losing one's balance, and one can change one's lifestyle. Now, what does that mean? People with dementia need to have a very structured environment where they can control and predict what is going to happen. People get very bent out of shape when something happens that they don't expect, or when something changes that they're not aware of. So moving furniture around in someone's space can be very disconcerting. Having a new dog or cat can be very disconcerting, or the death of a pet can be very disconcerting. So one needs to look at, pay attention, and modify lifestyle issues, and increase mind stimulating activities and various types of physical therapy, and even emotional therapy in some cases. But a medical diagnosis and a clinician will help to determine the course of action. So these are some other next steps in taking care of someone with dementia. You can change the environment so there's no clutter, and you do it and then accommodate or acclimatize the person to that. You can set up pleasant events so the person is alleviated from stress and experience pleasantness. You set realistic expectations. You cannot presume that a person is going to somehow go back to the way they were. You need to really move forward in understanding what may happen and to prepare for it. You also need to communicate very directly and practically with people, and you need to listen to them with respect, to provide comfort and redirect their issues that may be causing anxiety. And just use your common sense in the caregiving area. You may have to look at your home and rearrange things. There are checklists that AARP provides on their website that give you a way of going through your home and reestablishing safety and security. So balance is a big issue. You want to make sure that there's nothing that someone can trip over. Falls are one of the major medical issues for people, and leads to disability and death in elder care. People can't adapt to changes very easily, so they have to recognize and acknowledge their environment. So if the TV is in a particular place, the remote control needs to be in a particular place, and the person needs to know where it is. And the caregiver needs to make sure that it's in that place if the person moves it. If they're still managing well, you can prepare your house for the future. But you just need to know at what stage someone is at. One of the significant changes that people need to make is, for example, when somebody has to be using a walker or a cane or a wheelchair, that you may have to provide a ramp that goes up the few stairs that goes into your house. And as again, Marcelo pointed out in our opening, you may have to move in order to be in an environment that can deal with the issues that your loved one is needing or that your client is needing. A dear friend of mine in California is married to someone who was diagnosed with Lewy body's dementia, and they had to sell their home and move into what they call a stepwise environment where they are currently in independent living, but he is slowly moving into the assisted living requirements, and very shortly is going to need skilled nursing. And one of the things they had to cope with was the mobility issues, to have everything on one floor and to have him be on a first floor in the facility. And they have had to take away his keys, that he's no longer allowed to drive, which was an extremely challenging, difficult, as it is with people who really don't even have dementia but are aging, and their reaction time and driving ability is really not good. The other thing that people have to deal with is the concept of losing keys. That you need to make sure that the keys to your house are secure, and that if the person has a set of keys and needs to use them for any reason, that they don't get lost. There are experts in your community that can help with all kinds of aspects of dementia and Alzheimer's. In many communities, Jewish Family Service, Jewish Community Service have counselors and professionals who can help with resources. Often congregations are now starting to have social workers, chaplains, to help with issues. It is critical to have a meaningful medical team, particularly people who understand geriatric concerns. And you want to keep track of any changes that you can report to your medical personnel. So if a person starts to be unsteady, they're losing their balance, that is something that is absolutely critical to let medical teams know, and that the appropriate equipment be provided to keep the person mobile and balanced. Okay, this is about sundown symptoms, which are very common as the day wears on, and people see that it's darker, or there's a temperature change. They may be triggered to become anxious and agitated and even aggressive. So the treatments can include helping the person sleep better, and also that the environment is not cluttered, that the light adjusts, and that there are many ways of treating sundown symptoms that are using alternative medicine, but you need to be in touch with a medical advisor as to what will work best with the person that you are working with. The major way of working with dementia patients is called person-centered care. Every person with dementia or Alzheimer's has a different profile, a different set of symptoms and behaviors. And so the key issue is that we want to treat the person with respect and dignity. We want to honor as much as possible the autonomy of the person, their ability to self-determine their life, and that they're able to make choices that are meaningful to them. We also want to help them with purpose, a sense of purpose. So while somebody may not be able to be the person they used to be, they can still do many things that provides them with meaning and purpose. Again, this friend of mine who had to move and had has Louis' body, is a bird expert, and he can still go through his albums on his computer and categorize and make calendars and shutterfly books of his birds. He can't always remember what birds they are, but all of them are now labeled, so he can refer to that. So creating a way for a person to be able to have meaning and comfort is very significant. The way that we communicate with someone with dementia is extremely important. The tone, pitch, the rate of your speech, the way you pause when you're speaking to somebody can help them tremendously with their communication. The nonverbal issues, gesturing, how your facial expression expresses emotion, how you're standing, can also impact a person's understanding and ability to communicate. Only 55% is the verbal communication. our 38% is the nonverbal. And 7% is an inability to communicate at all for various reasons. And this again is reflecting this. You have to, if you're angry, the person you're interacting with is going to mirror that. You always need to approach a dementia patient from the front, because if you come at them from the rear, they can get frightened. You want to establish eye contact. You want to speak to them at eye level. So if they're sitting down, you want to be seated as well. If you are touching them or offering physical stimulation, whether it's a massage or putting lotion or oil on their skin, you want to be very gentle with how you're doing that and not frighten them. And if they say they don't want you to do it, you have to stop. And this is very difficult if they have any kind of a wound, which often happens with elders where their skin breaks down. So one has to work with each individual in terms of their situation. Yelling is very, very bad. People get frightened very easily. All of your facial expressions need to be calm and comforting. Things like clapping hands has to be done in a way that's not frightening, that's rhythmic rather than sudden. And that happens when people are in music environments in nursing homes, where the stimulus of the music is wonderful, but if people start clapping, it has to be within a rhythmic domain. Verbally, we need to be calm, gentle, refer to people by name. You have to identify who you are. Short, simple sentences, speak slowly, respectfully, eliminate distracting noise, don't speak in big terms, give simple choices, one instruction at a time, and give the person the ability and the time to respond to whatever is going on. One of the things I wanted to share with you is the whole issue of narrative and storytelling. People often cannot tell you about their life. They don't remember. They can't give you the narrative of their life history or do a life review. But if you do a story like Cinderella, they can tell you what's happening in the Cinderella story. They can tell you if you start a narrative with a beginning, a middle, and an end, they can often tell you what's going to happen next. I worked with a chaplain also who was Christian, and she used to bring a pictorial catalog of the various saints. She had pictures of Jesus and Mary and many of the saints, and her people, the people we would visit, the patients, could point out, oh, that's Jesus. Oh, that's Mary. So within Judaism, we don't have quite the same ability, but there are ways of using magazines or storybooks that have images where, like, you work with a child. Oh, there's the castle. Oh, there's the princess. Oh, there's the cat. Where you can work with people in a narrative frame. to stimulate them and provide enjoyment on many levels. And you can do that with pictures. One of the things, and what this image is, one person is saying, oh, there are 4 there, and the other person is saying, no, there are 3. Don't argue with people. If they say, yes, there are 4, then say, oh, yes, I hear you. You don't have to say, oh, there are 4 if there aren't 4, but you can acknowledge what they're seeing. And this particular image, there are 4 and 3. It's a weird, it's one of those Escher-like things. You want to acknowledge and accept what they're saying and how they're feeling, particularly in the early stages. If you contradict them or try and correct them, they will get very frustrated and anxiety-ridden. And their current reality is based on their past reality, so that bringing in new information is often challenging. So people, for example, like to have the same food every meal. You don't want to change it, because then they become dysfunctional and they don't want to eat. And also, food is very important, as always. And a lot of the food in most of the facilities are really awful. However, the other thing is that as people age, they lose their taste buds. So they need spices and salt more than they used to. Okay, therapeutic fibbing. That is the concept of just not telling people. So for example, God forbid, somebody's child died. And they go, oh, where is Tom? And you say, oh, he's not here today. You don't say he died. And every day the person may say, where is Tom? Now, the other thing that may happen is the person knows that Tom died, but doesn't remember. And so you have to work with what is going to bring comfort versus what is going to bring anxiety. Some people will go, oh, my mother's in the hospital, I have to go visit her. You can say, oh, yeah, she's doing much better today. And someone else is visiting with her. It's okay if you don't. Rather than, your mother's not alive, she's not in the hospital, and you don't have to visit her. That will only cause agitation and anxiety. You respond to the person's feelings, whether it's joy, anger, fear, or sadness. Empathize. Look for the feelings behind the words. Enter where the person is and what they're experiencing. Be non-judgmental, respect their needs, and remember that your emotions are going to be mirrored by them. Communicate comfort, warmth, and praise. Smile. Put the person's feeling into words, like, oh, I see you're happy today. What's making you happy? Or, I see you're angry today. What's upsetting you? And it's really important to allow people to express difficult behaviors and even aggressive behaviors or crying. If it's distressing or challenging, in a facility or at home, some of this needs to be moderated by modified and moderated by medication so that the person can function and the people around them can function without being upset or fearing behavior. Many people have challenges, and it's important for us to use our problem solving. If a task is too complicated or it has too many steps, they're not going to be able to do it. If the environment is cluttered, has too much stimulation going on, they're not going to be able to process or sort through. If they are experiencing physical health problems, particularly visual or hearing impairment, it becomes very, very difficult to communicate and keep the person comfortable. Constipation is an ongoing concern, often relates to medication, and can cause a great deal of discomfort and pain. But you want to work with the medical people to be able to alleviate any of the physical, emotional experiences. Oops, where am I going? Uh, I, I think, no, I don't know what happened. I have to go backwards. I don't know what happened here. Sorry. Okay. So you want, we're running short on time. So I'm going to race through the end of this. But by just giving you the overview, and Rabbi Chaya will send you copies of the PowerPoint. You need to understand what is causing behavioral issues, what the triggers are, and what the comfort measures are that can prevent disturbing issues. Many times people are resisting being cared for or the support that you're offering, and it's because they don't remember, they can't judge things anymore appropriately, they can't move appropriately, their attention wanders, and they can't communicate actively. One of the ways of preventing challenges is anticipation, creating a routine, establishing your rapport so they recognizing you, use a calm voice, don't rush, avoid arguing, focus on what they can do, not what they can't do, and don't try and use logic or reasoning. Again, preventing challenges, help people do as much as they can, give them praise for small successes, demonstrate when you need to demonstrate, and stop trying to do something when the person gets overly frustrated. In activities of daily living, people can have problems with dressing, bathing, toileting, eating and swallowing, as well as sleeping. So you need to be able to provide support in all of these areas. When you work with families, the big key is empathy. Being able to share resources when people are in need, help them with strategically providing what is needed. Oops. sorry, I keep doing this. Why is it? I'm sorry, my computer is just not cooperating. Okay. And it's really important to go with how the family is feeling and acknowledge them. Acknowledge their denial, frustration, isolation, guilt, anger, loss, and letting go. Particularly if they are just starting with caregiving or if they're experiencing burnout. It's important to recognize what families are experiencing and helping them in resolving any conflicts that are arising. Sometimes being in denial can be healthy for them. Give them education in small doses. Don't push too hard. Encourage families to go to support groups for caregivers of people with dementia. Acknowledge what they're experiencing, listen to them, and provide positive feedback, and keep whatever their issues are private unless you're dealing with something where they want you to help and they give you permission to share. Okay. The anger with God is really incredibly important. Allow people to be able to be angry. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my parent? Why is this happening to my spouse? And allow them to geschrei at God. God can take it. If you're working with facilities, make sure you support the people who are caregiving to your patient or client or family member. Bring in activities that can be positive and helpful, and help the facility working with the patient. Again, here are the statistics that I mentioned at the beginning. 29% of the US adult population is providing care. And by 2020, they're saying it's going to go from 65 to 80. By the end of the decade, it's going to be up to 150. So it's a big challenge. These are wonderful little tips about how to make sure that as a caregiver, you're able to deal with your situation. Talk with the person before they become cognitively disabled. Create a care team, gather all the important records that you need and the checklists, things like passwords and all of the assets, the estate planning. Educate everyone in the family to what's going on. Know about the local services and national services, and create an emergency list. These are resources that I'm providing you with, websites, and two helping software programs that can help you coordinate care. And this is me if you want to talk to me or reach out to me. And Reb Chaya is going to send you the PowerPoint. And woo, we're done.
Rabbi
We're never
Cheryl,
done, but
that was
So-
great. Thank you.
thank you. Are in the last minute or so, do people have any questions?
We've got a few minutes. Anybody have any questions or comments they want to make to Rabbi Cheryl? Let's put
Okay.
on speaker view. here.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Oh, yes, Carl.
So first of all, the information was massive, and I'm glad we'll get the PowerPoint so I can absorb it a little slower.
Okay.
It was also really great to see it. You know, most of those things we've heard somehow or another, but in multiple places. Just to see it all put together was just really great. And I'm sure everyone here has gone through some level of this with someone else. And I will admit that hearing it scares the crap out of me for when I got to deal with it. But on the, when I can get out of being so egocentric about it, really working with all the people that we're working with now, it is and knowing how hard it is to find caregivers that are at all responsible, it really becomes an issue that we have to all take note of.
We do.
So
And
thank you.
oh, you're welcome. And thank you for your comments. One of the major issues with finding paid caregivers has to do with language and culture. While people may not be prejudiced, a lot of people have difficulty with ethnicity, with religion, and just with politics. And language is a big issue because many caregivers are Spanish speakers. Here, they're Creole speakers. Often they come from island cultures. And if somebody is, for example, cooking for a Jewish client, they have no idea how to make a brisket or, what kashrut is, or one has to be patient and caring with our caregivers. Many of the people from other cultures are really the most compassionate and caring of those among us, and working with them is a gift. But that is an issue. But again, thank you for your comments. Anything else? Okay. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Again, thank you to Reb Chaya, and
It was very thorough, very, very wonderful. Thank you so much for all that information.
you're very, very
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you, Cheryl.
God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Have
And
a
what-
happy Passover, everybody.
Yeah.
And thank you
Zis
for joining us.
Pesach, Zis Pesach.
Listen, Pesach, yes. Take
Bye
care.
bye, everybody.
Thank you. Shavua Tov.
Vua Tov.